The recipe of the Italian meringue recipe is you have a pot each. Okay, this recipe is very special. This is coming from the Korean buttercream artist Finalizing. Who follows Finalizing? He's a Korean artist. Anyway, this is a recipe that came from one of the Korean artists, and this is a very stable Italian meringue recipe. I've tested so many recipes of Italian meringue, and this is the one that I like the most. Okay, we first start off with the sugar syrup. So the sugar syrup is 120 grams of fine sugar. Some people use castor. Fine sugar should be okay. Do not use coarse sugar because that one takes very long to melt. Okay, and 50 ml of water. Okay, I will put this here. When we make the sugar syrup, it's recommended that you put on a stainless steel pot with a heavy bottom. Because if you put on like those thin aluminum pots, your sugar syrup can burn easily. Okay, candy thermometer. This one I bought from Amazon. You don't need to buy this one. You can use like those regular digital thermometer that you buy in Kunwat or in other baking supply store. Okay. The reason why I love using this one is I can see the indicator slowly how far it's been boiling. Okay, and it's critical that when you boil your sugar syrup, you have to hit a certain temperature. You should not go above, you should not go below. Okay, in the recipe it says should reach 120 Celsius. If it goes below, your meringue will not be stiff. If it goes above, you will have crystals on your buttercream. Okay, that's very important. Let me attach this one. And then, okay, for the meringue, we have 4 egg whites. Okay, what eggs did I use? You can use any eggs, like those 30 egg carton that you buy in fair price for how much? $3.95. Yeah, $3.95. You can use that one, or you can use the large eggs. It's up to you. It works on any size of eggs. At least 50 grams. Try not to break them when you separate. They should look something like this. They look nice and whole. So I will put on the mixer here. Okay. And then 120 grams of sugar. Okay. So the sugar that I put to the sugar syrup is the same amount that I put in the meringue. Most of the Italian meringue buttercream recipes put all of the sugar in the sugar syrup, but do not put sugar here. So that's the difference. The sugar that you put on the egg whites will ensure the stability of your meringue. So that's what makes it very stable. Okay. So I'm about to start. So let me put this down. When you start making the Italian meringue, you have to do them at the same time. So you put a bit of multitasking. Okay, let me turn this on. Put this on medium. Okay, the induction gets hot very fast, so I'm putting it on low. And then I start beating my egg whites. So while this is heating up, I watch the egg whites. When it reaches the soft peak stage, I will show later. If you see a little bit of bubble, okay, have a look. Okay, if your mixture has bubbles inside, you can start putting your sugar. Okay, so I put the mixer on low, slowly add the sugar in. It has to be done this way because if you dump all of the sugar in one go, your air bubbles will not, the meringue will not fluff up to its maximum. So you have to do this. Allow the sugar to slowly cut through the egg whites. Okay. Once I added all the sugar, I put it back on high. No, do not stir your sugar syrup. If you stir your sugar syrup, it will create crystals on your sugar syrup, which will block your nozzles later when you're cutting butter. One thing I do while I'm cooking my sugar syrup, I brush it to the side of water to prevent crystallization on the side. Because the pot gets so hot that the sugar crystals tends to go on the wall. So you have to brush it with water to keep the crystals from getting there. You want to avoid the crystallizations because it will give you problems later on in your buttercream. Is it 120 already? Almost. Let me know if it's 120. Now, some people ask me, is it okay to overbeat your egg whites? That's okay. Because sometimes the sugar syrup, especially if you're using a burner, it takes a long time for it to hit the 120. I think about 15 to 20 minutes, depends on how strong your fire is. So what I do is, I just let it whip, and then when I see if it's stiff, I put on low. I just let it spin slowly. It's because yeah, stiff. Is it 120? Not yet. You just let this whip. So that's stiff. Okay. So now the sugar syrup is ready. You have to be careful with this one. Okay. Put on low and slowly pour the sugar syrup on the side between the beaters and the wall. If you pour on the wall, your sugar will stuck there, it will crystallize. So you have to put in between the wall and the beater. Once you pour all the sugar syrup in, you put your mixer on high, and then your bowl will be hot. Sometimes what I would do, I would put an ice pack beside the bowl, but it's not necessary if you really want to cool down your meringue very fast. So you let this whip for 3 to 5 minutes. By the way, this makes a very nice marshmallow icing. If you do not put any butter, you can use this as a frosting by itself, and it's nice on cupcakes. On cakes, it's kind of hard to frost it because it's very sticky, but it's nice and not so sweet, like very fluffy. When you make this, some of you may have a hand mixer. It might take a bit longer to make. I would recommend if you're using a hand mixer, use a stainless steel bowl and you put it on an ice bath when you're mixing your meringue at this stage. It will make the process faster And at the same time, because you need your meringue to be cold by the time before you put in the butter. So ice bath is recommended for those using hand mixer. If you have stand mixer, it's fine. You just let it whip until it's cool, until the bowl is cool to touch. I think it's done. Okay. If you hold the bowl, okay, you want to come and hold the bowl and just to feel what I meant is cool to touch. This is the minimum requirement before you put in the butter. Okay, but if you have the time, if you can afford the time, you just let the bowl sit for 10 to 20 minutes. After you finish whipping, yes, you can keep in the fridge. Okay, so this is Italian meringue. Now you can put this in lemon curd pie, and then you use the torch to torch it. Okay, but we're doing buttercream lah, so you can use this one. And it has to be stiff. So it has to be like standing up like that. If at this stage it is not stiff, continue whipping. This is very critical. Because if you put the butter and this is not stiff, your buttercream will be very soft. Alright?
Monica, you're saying this one can apply on the cupcake?
Yeah, you can apply on the cupcake, you can apply on lemon curd pie, you know, like those nice topping. Yeah, Big Alaska, correct. I'm going to add in the butter. Now, I recommend you add your butter cold. Like it's from the ref, from the fridge, you put it out, you cut into cubes. For me, this is my preference. I cut it in long slices like this because for me, it's my method. But you can cut it into cubes. And my instructor, what she does, she dump all of the butter in and whip it. But for me, because you're using whole butter, I suggest that you put one by one. Because what happens is your butter will be like, there will be some solid bits in there. So you need the butter to be well blended with the meringue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the butter one by one. I'm using, has anyone of you heard of the butter flesh art? Who always buys in Pun Wat? Pun Wat. What butter do you buy? Greenfield for baking. Okay. Just to give you information about butter, for buttercream, I would recommend go for French butter because French butter is less yellow and has lesser water content. When it's lesser water content, it means that it has a chance to be more, it will not very soft. Okay? Yes, the golden pleasure. For this lesson, what I'm using is another brand of pleasure called Butler Selection. It's margarine. Yeah, it's a luxury spread, but it's still pale in color. And what I like about this one is it melts. It doesn't melt as fast as the butter because we're doing lesson. We're practicing piping later, so you really need to have like. It's critical that the butter should not melt in your hands.
So this is not butter?
For this lesson, yes. You can still use pure butter when you're at home, when you're used to piping. If you can pipe a little bit faster, you can afford to put all butter. Some people use a mixture of butter and shortening. Okay, the Redmond shortening should also work, but you know how shortening tastes like. The mouthfeel is not very smooth and has like a greasy after texture. This one, at least this one still have a clean finish. Butter is 400. This is the brand that I'm using. It's available in Kunwat. Once you add all the butter, increase the speed and come closer so you will see how the buttercream transforms. Okay. At first, it will be slightly soupy. It will look like soupy, a little bit curdled. That's okay. You just keep going. High speed, high speed. It will be soupy, then it will be curdled. And after it curdles, it comes together again until it's like this one. It's almost ready. Okay. So, how do you know if your buttercream is ready? Your buttercream should cling on your whisk. Okay, when you mix, it's a bit stiff, and when you do this, it doesn't form. Okay, if it doesn't cling on the whisk, you keep on mixing. Okay, if it's soupy, put it in the fridge, and then come back 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later, and then you. Okay, so that's Italian meringue buttercream. Okay.
How much you have to do?
One recipe can make a 6-inch cake. Okay. So some tips on keeping buttercream. Okay. What I would do if I have a cake project, I make my buttercream meringue ahead of time. You can make it as ahead as 1 week. Okay, because this can keep in the fridge for 2 weeks. Okay, you can freeze this for 2 months. That's also okay. You just remember that when you thaw, you put in the fridge first, then before you bring it out and room temp. Okay, before you work on the buttercream, it has to be in room temp. Okay, if you're very impatient like me, what I would do, I would bring this out from the fridge. It will still be hard because of the butter. I will wait about 5 to 10 minutes until I can feel that it's a bit soft. And then I will put it on my stand mixer and remix again. And it will be the same as what I demoed earlier. It will come again. It will come together again. Okay? So when you keep, it will have bubbles here and there. So when you use your buttercream, you mix it in your bowl. You just take a portion, maybe about 1/4 cup, and then you mix it until you don't see any air bubbles. Okay. Unlike the American buttercream, when you mix it too much, it becomes gritty because you introduce too much air on the buttercream. But for Italian meringue, it's okay. It's not really sensitive to overheating. The important part is just to make sure that you don't see any air bubbles on the cream. So if you do this, and if you compare here, it has lesser air bubbles. Okay? And when you pipe later, your flowers, because if you pipe this right away, your flowers will have air pocket there, air pocket there. It's not really nice looking. Okay. When I put the icing on the piping bag, okay, I don't have coupler. You can use it in this method, but because personally I try to use one piping bag throughout the whole cake project, so that's why coupler is important. But if you run out of couplers, you can just grab a piping bag, cut a hole at the end of the piping bag, which is just nice for the portion of your tip to show up later. Okay. If you're using a coupler, maybe I want to borrow someone's coupler. Okay. Thanks. When you start working on your project later, you double your bag because the bag is too thin. and then you unscrew your tip. The male part of the coupler you put inside. Okay. And when you cut your piping bag, you cut it just nice so that the you cut it at the size where it will this one will appear on the end of the tip. Okay, do not cut too big, because if you cut too big, your coupler will, like, while you're piping, your coupler will just pop out while you're piping. So you just try to cut it just right on the, you know, before the screw lines there. All right. So let me work on this one. So far, everyone can catch up? Can understand? Please do ask me questions if you're lost. So this should look like. You can cut up to here. Anything beyond here is too much already. Okay. Your flower tip, your petal tip will go here. Okay. And this is compatible in any Wilton nozzle. I think this one is standard size, except the large one, of course. Okay, and then you use the screw part to secure your tip here, right? And if you can see, the plastic is nicely secure on the screw of the coupler, right? When you fill your bag, you fold the top portion of the icing bag and make a C on your left hand. You place your bag so that the C is nicely lined on the opening of your bag. Okay. Then you get your icing, scoop from your spatula, and put inside. You make use of your thumb or your index finger to wipe off the icing from the spatula. Okay. You may use a tumbler. You may use a glass if it's easier for you. I saw someone using PVC pipe. You know, PVC pipe, like those pipe like open on both ends. They put the icing bag, put the icing, and then get from the other end. Okay. When you put your icing on the bag, try to not it. Try to just fill 1/3 full. Why? It's easier to control. Also, since this is buttercream, this will melt on your hands. So if you put too much, all your buttercream will melt. Okay, so you just put just enough that will fit on your palm of your hand. Okay, and if you feel that the butter is melted, you pour it out on your bowl, mix, put a little bit of buttercream, and it will be stable again. Okay. If you feel your buttercream is still too soft, you can pop on the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes, especially if you use all butter. Alright, so now let's start with the rose. There are several types of nails, but I recommend you use 7. This is number 7 nail because this is just nice to make a flower. There is one that is smaller. I find it too small, not the right size. There are also some that are really big, like this big, for like really big flowers for big cakes. Okay, so I will start to demo the rose. Okay. I will demo just the ribbon rose first because this exercise is basically teach you how to get acquainted on using the flower nail. So to do the ribbon rose, you pipe the base. So when you pipe the base, teardrop, the flat end of the teardrop always touching the nail. Okay, and then you basically the flat part of the nail of the tip is parallel to the nail, and then you squeeze, put pressure, and you start turning your nail. Okay, so that's the first half of the base, and then you put another one, and then you fill in the middle. So this is how you create the base. Some people, they put like do this in YouTube videos. This is not recommended because your flour will tip for sure. Okay. Now, when you hold your flour nails, it should be your thumb, your index finger, and your middle finger, and then you're twisting the screw. Okay. So later, practice. Okay, I will start with the ribbon rose. So I start with the base. So the flat end of the teardrop touches the base, and the angle is 45 degrees. Okay, and then I start pressure and turn the nail until I come full circle, stop pressure and release. So this is your bud. Okay, and then next round, maybe a little bigger, about maybe 40 or 60 degrees. And then you start piping, turn the nail until it comes full circle, stop pressure, release. So that's row, second row. Third row, the same, slightly open, your tip touching the base, and put pressure, turn the nail. Okay. Petal close, stop pressure, and release. Fourth one, slightly open. When you're, if you notice the angle, okay, because that's how it opens up your flower. The wider the angle, the more open your flower. So this is, I think, I'm tilting the nail now because I want to create a more open petal. Then pipe around. Last one. So I want you to practice on this one. You'll practice for the next 20 minutes. When you're done piping, you use your flower nail. Okay, when you use your scissors. When you use your scissors, okay, open. Go between the base and the nail. You go in, cut, close a little bit, leave some space open, spin the nail, and then slowly lift the flower. Okay, you need to spin because you need to detach the flower off the nail. Otherwise, your flower will stick and it will be spoiled. Okay, then you put on the board. Okay, remember the scissor is still open. You press hard. Then you open the scissors and you slowly let go of the flower. Okay. Any questions? So you can you do the ribbon rose for the next 20 minutes. I'll go around. Okay. Basically, it's the same concept as working on the ribbon rose, except that instead of making a one big petal around the bud, you're making a series, a certain number of petals per row. Okay. Ribbon method teaches roses. Their petal count from the bud is 3, 5, and 7. Okay. For Korean, we start with bud. 4, 5, 6, 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Because it creates more petals around, so at the same time it creates more realistic. Okay. So I will make a rose now. So like what you did earlier, you need to create the base. Okay. Your base doesn't have to be perfect, as long as you have a flat like a mountain. Then 45-degree angle, the base touching the tip touching the base. Turn and create your bud. First, the first row after the bud is 4 petals. Okay, so when you make 4 petals, with the tip touching the base, a little bit lower than the bud, you pipe a big rainbow like an arch, up and down, up. Okay, stop pressure, so you see an arch. Okay. Second petal, start from the middle of the first petal. Okay. Right? Make an arch. Turn the needle. Then down. Then up. Stop pressure. Okay. Third petal. Start in the middle of the previous petal. Make an arch. Up and down. Up. Stop pressure, last petal, start from the middle of the previous petal, pipe, and arch, down, top, stop pressure, when you pipe your 4th petal, make sure that it touches the first petal underneath. Okay? So it looks like a bud. Now the next row is 5. Okay, so from the previous petal that you pipe, same thing, the tip touching the base, pipe, make sure it's the same height as the flowers, and down. The arch is longer because you have to cover a wider range. Then previous petal, pipe, arch, and down, up, stop pressure. Arch, up. Last one. So it looks like a rose, more or less. So 4, 5, next is 6. So from the previous petal that I piped, okay, start from there, start in the middle, pipe an arch, up and down. If you notice, I'm using a wider angle now to make the petals more. Now you can add another row, it's up to you. Usually I will stop at 6. If you think that the rose is not so rounded, you can add one more. Any questions? I will repeat one more time. Okay. When you do color, we are testing. When you use color, I highly recommend you use gel. This is gel, right?
Yeah, gel.
Okay, gel. There are some colors we bought in Korea, like those liquid paste. Do not use that one because the more liquid your color is, the more softer your butter cream is. Yeah. Okay, so go for gel colors. I personally use Wilton, American color, and Sugar Flare. The Sugar Flare very expensive. This is an Indonesian brand brought in by Janet. You can also use this. This is cheaper than Wilton. Because I think per pot of Wilton is about $3 to $4. This one is how much is it? $2. Yeah, $2 per color. Okay. When you put color, Okay, when you do Korea flowers, if you notice that the colors are more pastel-like, right? Which means when you put color, you just put a little bit until you're happy with the desired color. Okay, do not put too much, otherwise some colors has a tendency to get more stronger as it sits longer, especially Wilton. Okay, so like for me, if I use Wilton, I just put a little bit. I put in the fridge for 10 minutes to let the color mature. Yeah, same for a Mary color. The more stable ones that I use is sugar flare, which means that whatever you put there, that will be the color for the entire piping session. Okay, Indonesian colors are also more or less stable. Okay, so when you color, you use a toothpick, and then you dab a bit on the end, and you put just a bit on the end. It's okay. And then if you have like a separate container or tissue to put away your used toothpick, do not recycle your toothpick, because the cream that is on the toothpick, if you put back on your pot of color, it will spoil one. Okay, so you put a little bit and then you color. Okay, I would always set aside a bit of color on the side, and then I will color this part only, like a small part, just to test how the color looks like on the cream. If I think the color is not enough, I put some more. No, it's a bit too, how do you call it? Not as strong as the last one. What's the brand that you use? Okay. So this is what you use to test. And then from here, okay, you can create a two-tone effect. Because if you notice, like for the Korean flowers, it's more 3D, right? Because what they do is they put a two-tone effect, which means one darker shade, one is lighter. So let's say if this is my darker shade, I will mix a bit to make a lighter shade. Okay? Okay. So one darker tone, one lighter tone. And when you put on the piping bag, if you look at the bigger, the wider end of the teardrop, this is where you put your darker buttercream, which will serve as a shadow of the petal. Okay, and the lighter one should come out on the thinner end of the tip. Okay, so how do you do that? Open up. Then you try to look which one is the larger. Okay, so this one. So I put the darker one here. This is two-tone effect. And this only works in lighter tones. If you use it on stronger, bolder colors, it will look like bacon. No bacon. Turkey bacon. It will, some streaks will show on the buttercream, which doesn't really look nice. Then you test your buttercream. Okay, so in your pipe, I think the dark one went at the if you notice, if you look from the top, it looks like there's more shadow at the bottom. Right? Okay.
Oh, this means okay.
All right.
Mine will be in 3 months' time. Like this.
When you make the cake, okay, everyone ready? Okay. When you make the cake, okay, now we're not going to torch the cake because we do not have enough time. So we just ice the cake. And has anyone seen naked cake before? It's a trend. It's basically like you're crumb coating the cake, but you do not create. It's like you're seeing the surface of the cake. It's called naked cake. Yes, it's called naked cake, semi-naked or whatever they call it. The reason why I recommend doing the naked cake because you're putting so much buttercream on top. If you put more buttercream on the side and in the middle, it's like very jalat. Yeah, that's the word, jalat. Okay. So what I would do is I would put some icing on top, and using the spatula, you spread it like peanut butter. Okay, like you're spreading jam over toast. Okay. Now, if you are not doing naked cake, you want to do like a properly coated cake. Okay. When you spread like this, like left and right, you tilt your spatula so the cream will glide over the surface of the cake. Do not do this and then you do this, otherwise you get crumbs. Okay? Don't do that. So you just glide left and right, and then you use the turntable, you spin as you spread it evenly on the surface. Okay? The surface doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to put flowers on top. Okay, you just need to make the middle nice and even because that's the surface that you will see on top of the flowers.
The cake can be any kind of cake.
It can be any kind of cake, can be sponge cake, chiffon, up to you. Italian meringue is really like nice on any kind of cake. I use this bench scraper to make it even surface. Okay. So when you try to even out the cream on top, you just glide the bench scraper. Do not just like really dig like you want to spread the buttercream. You just glide on top until it's nice and smooth. Okay? Okay. On the side, the same thing. Some people would use a piping bag and they would pipe like W's on the side. The purpose of piping like big W's on the side is because it creates an even coating on the cake, and then you use your spatula to spread in between the spaces. But since you're doing naked cake, you can just grab a spoonful of icing and then you just let it glide over the surface. Doesn't matter if you get crumbs. If you get crumbs on the cake, that's okay. Make sure that the space at the bottom gets filled because it looks really ugly if it's not. You just use a spatula. Some people like to do it this way. Some people like to do it this way. It's up to you. There's no right and wrong. Make sure when you ice the cake, if you're going to color the cake, you ice more than enough because sometimes if you run out of cream and you create new color, the tones tend to be different, which doesn't look nice. Like what's happening to me right now, I'm about to run out. Okay. You can also do this way. Okay. And then once I put the finish on the cake, I will use the bench scraper and then just glide over. It's okay if you see some cake peeping in between beneath the buttercream. That is the naked cake effect. If you feel that there is some gap at the bottom, you just put more cream and then just okay. If you want to coat this, you put another coat. You crumb coat like this first to make sure that the crumbs are locked in. So when you put another layer, the crumbs will not go to the second layer. And then you use the bench scraper to even out. Okay. And when you use the bench scraper, you just glide. Do not press. Because if you press, you will see something like this. You just glide over. Okay? And then those excess icing, you just use your bench scraper. Okay. We will do a floral relief pattern. So now you have a nicely iced cake. Okay. You prepare a piping bag. Open a little bit of space, maybe 1 centimeter big. Okay. So you can use any balanced buttercream that you have. Can be any color. Basically, we're going to pipe this to support our flowers. Okay. So you have buttercream in your hand. Allocate space about maybe a few centimeters, and then you pipe a big dam around. Make sure that the space between the edge and the dam is consistent. Okay. And then you pipe another one in the inside. Follow the pattern of the first circle, and then you pipe on top. So you have it. Can I borrow one of these scissors? Can I borrow one of your scissors? Yeah, thank you. Okay. So now you have a dam. Choose the side that you think is more pretty. That will be the top. Okay. So you just use this as a. Okay. Maybe you use this as a front. Okay. Now when you assemble flowers, you assess your flowers and pick one which is the prettiest one and the ugliest one. The ugliest ones will go at the back of the cake. The prettiest one goes in front. Alright? So now I'm going to assemble the flower leaf. I'm going to choose the ugliest base. So I work on the back first, towards the front, and then I work on the other half. Okay? So I work on the back first. So I pick up the flower. Okay. When you pick up the flower, the scissors must be open. You press hard. You go under the flower, and then you shake a bit to dislodge the flower off the board, and then you lift. You can close a little bit more if you think it's off balance. And then, for example, this is the back of your cake. When you put the cake when you put the flower on the cake, you position the flower where you want to put it, and then you press hug so the flower will stick on the dam, and then you close the scissors, and then you slowly close. Okay? Make sure that you're pulling away from the flower. Not like that, not like that, not like that. Okay? Must be away from the flower. Okay. Now I'm putting the second one, so I choose the next ugliest flower. Okay. Now some arrangement people like to like mix match flowers and alternating colors. That's up to you. You can plan it. But when I do arrangement, I prefer like working on one section at a time because it's easier to arrange rather than have like different flowers in different sections. Then you have a difficulty time inserting the flower if the space is very big. So the proper way is work on one section at a time. Okay. So I'm putting the second flower. So I put at the inner circle, and then the same thing. I position the flower, press. I press hard, and then I close the scissors, and then I pull away. Okay. So I'll continue working on this flower, on this cake. So now that you have like flowers beside it, right? So try to pull away that it will not hurt the other flowers. This one is a little bit it's leaning too low and it's very difficult for me to insert. So what I would do is I would pipe a little bit of buttercream to boost up the flower. And then I will put a little bit more buttercream. So when I put the other flower, it's nicely resting. Right? Okay, next one. If you think some flowers are damaged, you can always fix with the scissors. It's also fine if some of the petals are like pressed against the other flowers. It creates a more like natural effect. Okay. So now I have a small section here. And I need to find a flower that will fit nice inside. So just slowly. Okay. If you damage like this flower here, you can cover it with leaves or with buds. Two leaves. Now, leaves. Leaves is using tip 352, and when you pipe the tip, it should be perpendicular to the surface, and you put some pressure to create the base, and then you shake it out a bit, and then stop pressure, pull away. One more time. Stop pressure, pull away. If you don't stop pressure, then it will create a long. So you must stop pressure before you pull away, okay? So when you put the leaves, you put leaves in between the flowers. The stronger the pressure, the more fat the base is. Okay? You can shake up to create more texture to your leaves. If you have like opening gaps like that, you just add one more leaf. And one rule of thumb for leaves is the leaves should be visible from the top. Those open spaces here, you can cover it with leaves. Remember your ugly flowers, you can cover it with leaves, those ugly corners. So just put some leaves random here. Okay, what happened? You can always redo. Okay. Make sure that you cover all open spaces. Those unsightly corners like this, you can just put a leaf here, leaf there. Okay, for the buds, you can use a tip 3. This is optional, or you can just cut a piping bag with a very small opening. And then, when you pipe, you put pressure, and then you create like a ball. So it should be like 1, 2, 3. It's in 3s. And when you inject the white inside, you stick the tip inside, and then you put some cream. Then there will be like small whites inside. That will be like your buds left. Okay? Got it? Okay, so to put the buds, you put on those open corners, open areas. You just fill those with buds and make it as a triangle. You make it like a triangle to make it more realistic. Okay? Okay, you may finish your cakes and then you can start assembling your flowers.